I just finished reading B.K Boes' Mother of Rebellion, which I received from Voracious Readers Only. And the reason why I decided to go ahead and download this book was because in their email they had said it would appeal to fans of George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. And I really enjoyed that series, so hey, why not? Let's go ahead and read this. So right off the bat, reading the summary, I know we're following 5 different characters through a land that's been warring for the last 1,000 years, give or take. And it appears that we're going to be hitting the crescendo of that pretty soon. And upon downloading the book and just kind of seeing how short the chapters were, I was a little bit concerned that 5 different characters and short chapters, we would have really choppy character development, plot development, and it would just lend to a not great storyline. But once I started reading the book, I was actually really impressed on how Boes capitalized on these short chapters to make really quick kind of character development, kind of get us into their lives and just kind of push that storyline forward really quickly. And I thought she did a really fantastic job of that. So I really enjoyed her storytelling and just how she's not forcing a lot of unnecessary detail on us. It really allows you to kind of imagine everything how you think it would be rather than this overcomplication of details that really don't lend well to the plot. So again, I was super impressed with that. My only issue was there were a couple times where we definitely could have used a lot more detail. Like towards the end of the book, there was basically one of the characters sieged a full-scale battle that should have taken months, and it was pretty much wrapped up in just over a chapter. That I think could have been written with a little more detail so we actually know the process rather than one chapter they're, hey, let's do this, let's start planning this war out, and then the next chapter we're pretty much wrapping it up. So definitely there could have been a little bit more detail, but overall I really enjoyed her writing style. So in the novel we have 5 different characters we're following. The first character we're introduced to is Imra, who is a slave wife, and in this chapter she's being forced to give up her 8-year-old son to the slave son army, where she knows she'll never see him again because he's either going to become a warrior and cut ties with everyone, or he'll die trying to become a warrior. So at the beginning of this chapter, she's going through this emotional turmoil of giving up her son, and she kind of accepts it because she knows it's her place. After this episode, she goes back to her life as a slave wife, and she eventually falls pregnant again, and when she finds out it's another son, so she doesn't know how she's going to go through this emotional turmoil again, so she finds somebody to help her fake her son's death. So all of a sudden, her character feels this liberation and feels this need to help other women, to help them in the same way she just liberated her son. So you can see her evolution from this poor broken woman to somebody strong, somebody who's going to start her own version of a rebellion against this nation. So I really enjoyed her character. But then on the flip side, we're also following Anakai, who is her 8-year-old son that she had to give up in the first chapter. And when he's first introduced, he is so childishly innocent. He doesn't really fully grasp what's going on. And we're following his story of realizing the world is a way darker, crueler place than he thinks it is. So I'm really interested to see how eventually these 2 characters are going to interact. Just because they started at the same place and like they just took such different paths from the same fork in the road that I'm just really interested to see their interaction later on. We're also following Moloch. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. I apologize if it's not. We're also following him. He's part of another nation, and he is the son of the military advisor to the king. And his is a character I don't particularly enjoy, and everything he does is just to spite his father, spite his brother. He doesn't really get into developing his character to any true extent, to me anyways, until like he meets, he's a teenager, he meets a girl, falls in love, he wants to marry her, so of course he's trying to all of a sudden impress his father so he can inherit the title, just so he can get enough status to kind of force this girl's father to accept his marriage proposal. So I hope his character develops more than that, but for me it just didn't really work out for me. But I guess that's why there's 5 characters and you can pick and choose them, which is a bonus. One of the other characters is Jabin, who, upon his introduction in the book, he finds out he's an oracle and he can see people's deaths. And he's a young child, and right off the bat, like, he has a dream about his sister's death, so he tries to save her, and both him and his sister are saved, so yay, hurrah. And so he starts training as an oracle. So upon his training, Jabin meets the current oracle's niece, and she has a little bit of abilities, but it's not as well developed as Jabin's. But she keeps getting these feelings about this woman in a faraway city, and she has to go save her. She just has to. So she runs away to try and save this woman, and Jabin tries to follow her and stop her, just to keep them both out of trouble. So eventually Jabin ends up giving in to her, and they both go to this city where they eventually find the woman, and she's about to throw herself off a building. And Jabin is trying to talk her down, but this woman is so miserable that she eventually just throws herself off the ledge. Jabin realizes he can't save everyone. He can only save the people who are willing to be saved, who are willing to take his hand and pull themselves out. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to see how his character develops from this, if he kind of takes this in stride, or if this really darkens his character later on. And finally, we have a character named Kayla, who is a young girl in a nomadic tribe, and she's training to be essentially the next guardian of history, because it appears that they have oral histories. During her training with the current leaders, there's this trade deal that's in the making. The current history keeper is really pushing this story forward, to really twisting in her own way to give to put the trade deal in good light. But Kayla is familiar with the story, and she knows she's twisting it. So she's kind of rallying behind the backs of the leaders with the senior council, and there's a couple of them that believe her, and they get the same feeling. So Kayla's kind of building her alliances there. Her mother falls ill, and the only way she's going to get well again is if the healer is able to procure the medicine for her. And the only way the healer is going to be able to do this is if they get the money for the trade deal. So all of a sudden, Kayla's forced with a decision. Does she do what's right and stop the trade deal, or let the trade deal go through to save her mother? So at this point, Kayla realizes the world isn't just black and white. There are shades of gray in between, and she kind of looks the other way and allows the trade deal to go through. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to backlash on the tribe, just so Kayla can save her mother. So overall, really enjoyed the book. For me, the pros definitely outweighed the cons. The only thing that really stuck out to me, as I stated earlier, was could have used a little bit more detail in places, but overall, great character development, good progression through the story, and I definitely will be looking out for the second book in this series. So keep reading.